In this video, I'm going to go over advocacy, lobbying, and talking points, as well as developing talking points for your own campaign projects for this class. So, advocacy is the act of pleading or arguing in favor of something, and it's really about raising awareness and educating, particularly policymakers or other decision makers, about a cause, policy, or interest. It is aimed at getting active support for that idea or policy or cause as well. And we're going to go into this definition a little bit more in the next few slides. So, advocacy really is a process of actively supporting a cause. It's something that you develop a plan for, such as your campaign projects, and look to speak and or write in favor of or defend on behalf of a person. So, when it's a person, it's considered case advocacy here. Or a population or group is class advocacy. And then if it's an issue, it's cause advocacy. So your projects are going to be around class and or cause, because depending on the approach that you take, you're looking at a population group of people, not a single person. So when it's a single person, it may be in the court system. For example, a victim of abuse, particularly a child, may need a case advocate to help on behalf and be a voice for them. So advocates can really be a voice for those that need help in changing their situation. So in this example here, this is an example of independent advocacy. So it's similar to case that it's for an individual. And I included it here because it's often found in healthcare is that independent advocate. And that's when a person needs someone to help, particularly maybe around end of life decisions or helping making some difficult healthcare decisions. And they need an advocate to help speak on their behalf of what they need and want. So the continuation of the definition is that in the process is convincing leaders and decision makers by concerned individuals or interest groups to use their power to influence and support an issue or cause by making a change in law, policy, program, or those allocation of resources. So more funding, for example, or even zoning in a land area if you were looking to desegregate a community or school, then you may look at zoning policies, for example, for that, or allocation of resources and getting more funding to the lower income school, for example. So the action is to assure the best possible services for or intervention in the service system on behalf of the individual or group. And we want this to be evidence-based, and there's a lot of good information out there. And leaders, decision makers, policymakers, they want evidence. And when I say evidence, it can come from secondary resources, CDC, local poverty levels, United Way, those types of statistics that are linked to the population or issue. So those the evidence around the percent of increased risk for minority groups for diseases, for example, that's good examples of evidence, or those statistics. They like to see that, or studies, results from studies. But on the other side, another really good type of evidence is qualitative type testimonials and experiences from the people. So having both of those is really good. So having the statistics, but then having the face to it, that really brings the issue to them and can help them feel that it's real. If you just see those numbers and the statistics, that doesn't really always humanize, or it sometimes dehumanizes the issue. And what you want it to do is ultimately produce system change. And what I mean by system, I'm going to go into here. The World Health Organization, when we look at changing systems and supporting systems, that is going to be more of those rules, regulations, and policy changes, sort of like the example that I just provided around segregation or the school systems and getting more money. It may be more money towards research for a particular rare disease that has come forth for a group. But in the World Health Organization's definition of health advocacy, they define it as a combination of individual and social actions designed to gain political commitment, policy support, social acceptance, and system support for a particular health goal or program. So it's that combination of individual and social actions here. And when you look at advocacy, it is defined in terms of activities that it encompasses. So advocates will use multiple different types of activities or tools to educate the decision makers and the policy makers around the issue for that. So this is a list of different activities and tools that advocates can use to raise that awareness, to argue for the change. Drama, for example. So some of the recent protests with Floyd, where in some states people were, large groups of people came together and laid down on the ground and over and over said, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. They were using drama, and they were bringing a lot of people together to raise, to advocate for change. Okay, so videos are also good ways with testimonials and commercials that can show the issue that way. And when they have the people that are being affected by it and statistics and those integrated, those can be really powerful, or sometimes really good music. Quotes, things like that. So you have the option to do a commercial in your project as well. That can also mass media and getting on the news. So some of these will also likely be used in together or conjunction, or, if something happens and it's shared on the news and mass media, and then it's shared on a blog or a social media page is created. So the more activities and tools, the better, but you want to target them to the decision maker and the people that you're raising the awareness to. So email and internet, social media, these are pretty self-explanatory in ways that you can advocate. But for example, email and the internet, there's also forms, pre-built forms. So if you've ever signed up for a newsletter or an advocacy group, so Environmental Working Group is a advocate particularly around reducing chemicals in our everyday products. So the biggest one lately is the amount of heavy metals in baby foods. And so I'm on their listserv, and I will get information about that. And then I can automatically fill out a form that's going to go to policymakers to change policies around, and to educate FDA around changing policies to get these heavy metals out of these baby foods. So that's where it's good, but you want to get not lots and lots of people to do this, because they're not as personal. But when you get, hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions filling out this form, then policy makers and organizations will see that that's a big issue. So advocates will facilitate that, or advocacy organizations will facilitate that. Events could include 5Ks and other awareness building type activities. So, Alzheimer's organization, they have a walk that they always do. I think it's Walk Out of Darkness is the one, but I'm sure you've heard of different 5Ks. There's a mental health and suicide awareness walk. These are working to raise awareness of the issue, and also funds to help towards more research for those issues as well. So that's another example of a way to advocate. Meetings with the people themselves, having one-on-one meetings with people or groups of people. I'm going to go into lobbying a little bit more in just a little bit. Negotiation, working with people to find that middle ground, but that's that one-on-one. Project visits, having people come see what the issue is, and inviting that policymaker, decision maker, and letting them see firsthand. So you can raise awareness that way. Reports and letters are really good too. Policy letters can be very effective when you're working towards policy change. Any other type of way to educate people, really. Fact sheets, flyers, infographics, posters, leaflets, and then bracelets, colors, ribbons that sometimes associate with different breast cancer awareness month and Alzheimer's again with purple and things like that. So this is not necessarily a list of all of them, but gives you a good sense of all the different ways that you can educate and raise awareness about the issue or cause. So lobbying in particular, if you looked at advocacy broadly, lobbying is one form of advocacy or one activity that I just mentioned, but this is where you're really specifically influencing a politician or public official about an issue. And it is one of the most effective ways to influence public policy. So you generally, so nonprofits can't have their own lobbyists. It is a law. So that's where other organizations and businesses they can have paid advocates. So for example, when we look at the opioid epidemic, the drug makers, these large pharmaceutical companies have lobbyists, and they're allowed to have lobbyists, and they're paid lots and lots of money to influence politicians to not have certain policies that may actually be most beneficial to people that are affected by the opioid epidemic most closely. So it is really effective. It involves specifically, again, influence of politicians. So going to the Capitol, reaching out, and talking to politicians about, and a lot of times about specific bills. It doesn't have to, so when you talk to a legislator, they can listen to anybody. And this quote right here, or not quote, but this statement, it may only take a couple dozen phone calls, emails, or other contact from constituents to get an issue on your legislator's radar. So you calling them and getting in touch with them is a start, but sometimes it's going to take multiple people or multiple activities or tools that I mentioned before, hitting them in all different areas, times of the day and in different ways for them to really see that, okay, this is an issue. And constituents are the people that lawmaker or legislator represents. So they're the ones that have, they want to be the voice for you for that. So the best way to really meet with legislators, if you try to meet with them in person, they do open sessions if you can get in with them. Writing letters can be very effective. Calling, it's sometimes very hard, but you can leave a message even nowadays getting in touch with them, but you can certainly keep calling with that. I worked for an advocacy group for pre-K education about 15 years ago, and we did all sorts of creative ways. We did a lobby day, and we took a bus down with all these childcare educators and parents, and went to the Capitol and educated legislators. We created flyers and campaign packets with talking points. That's what I'm coming up to next, as well as what was a very creative way is we had pre-K kids do little cards and drawings, and we stuffed, hundreds of them, and we took them there and just kind of threw them all out at them. So that was really fun, and mailed them to them just to get their attention. So that, and we ended up having some good policy changes made that year. The last two more slides here, but this last one here, before I get into what you need to do for your own campaign project, is to develop talking points. And so anytime you meet with a legislator or you create these tools to educate for the issue, you want to have some talking points, and you want some of them to be similar across the board. And those are the kind of the points that wow the person and are going to get them on board. So they need to support the overall advocacy goal, and that's whether you are educating or asking for support. So you will be creating goals in class soon, so we'll work for that. But up until then, you can work on drafting your talking points and personalizing them as much as you can. So if there are any testimonials that you can get from the people most effective, can be really good to include. If you're going to be looking at policy change, that you give the exact number of the bill, regulation, or amendment, being specific on what you want changed is really important. Providing a reason for the action, so the why. why is what I really kind of some of the wow, you know, why, how many people are affected, how bad is it, how severe is it, you know, and what's the impact of getting it supported or changed. And again, making sure you used evidence-based resources and including citation references. So you need to make sure where you get the information from another source, you cite that. They want to see reputable citations. So what you're going to do next for our next class period is to draft and submit 6 to 8 evidence-based talking points. So going back to the resources from your annotated bibliography, or if you find something else to add, and cite those. So they can just be bulleted. You don't have to write them. If they're full quotes, take the quotes. If you paraphrase, but put the reference by that and citation. And then also, I would like you to find a virtual advocacy activity or tool or example. So any of the ones that I shared earlier in this presentation to serve as a model for your campaign. So something that, you know, that you see an activity out there, you can do a snippet or screenshot of that or provide the actual link. And then with that, just a very brief description about why it is an effective way to promote, educate, or advocate for the topic. Ideally, this would be related to your population or issue. However, if not, if you find something that's really, you think would be really effective and you could apply your content an issue to, you can use that, because it's more about the tool than it is the content for this part of the activity. And then identify 3 interactive activity ideas that could be used for the virtual educational activity. So just the ideas are fine. If you find them online and you can link to them, great. Otherwise, just be prepared for a strategic planning team meeting and having some activity ideas planned. So I do not want Kahoot, so anything but Kahoot can work for this. And think of any type of virtual activity that you've been on, or if there's a way to use one of the advocacy activity or tool that you find to integrate that into your educational activity, that would be ideal. Just a reminder, your virtual activity with your group is going to be about 15 minutes total, and you will have multiple little activities within that most likely. But this is to get us to the next part of your campaign project planning and a good team meeting next class. So more details on this will also be posted on Moodle, and then if you have questions, please let me know.